Hello, everybody. This is D. Darrell Spears. Appreciate you all for coming in today. I'm going to speak on a very serious topic today um, that involves grieving through the holiday season. Now, before I get into this very serious topic matter or subject matter, I want to say thank you for everybody that has helped my channel become monetized. I do apologize for the fact that I have not been creating a lot of content lately as it relates to counseling, my business, mental health, financial issues, and all different topics as far as the Black family, American, as far as mental health and in American culture. I haven't been able to discuss those things a lot just due to a lot of things that I have going on. But I promised a close friend of mine, a confidant of mine, someone that I have known for probably over a year and a half, that I would touch on issues of grief. And I'm hoping that this channel, this particular video, can serve as a means of helping those who are having a difficult time grieving, particularly those in which this is your first year grieving over the loss of a loved one. Now, as we get into grief, I want you to understand is that in grieving, there is a negative way of grieving or lack thereof, and then there's positive ways of grieving. Grieving does not necessarily mean that there has to be an observable emotional outburst or display of sadness. That's a misconception. Grieving basically means you are in a process of learning how to deal with the loss of a loved one. Okay. And in many cases, I've also done grieving with animals, or animals are a human being for those that also grieve due to the loss of a pet or that you've had a relationship with. But primarily when I talk about this, I'm focusing on the human relationship between you and another individual. Preferably, we're talking about a spouse or a close, immediate family member, grandparent, father, mother, sister, brother, okay, or even a child. In the process of grieving, I've talked about in numerous of my grief videos. In the therapeutic process, I utilize the Kubler Ross stages of grief. And we're defining grief immediately in the onset of knowing that the loss has occurred, of being in a state of denial, followed by a state of anger, followed by a state of depression, depression leading to bargaining, and then bargaining over a period of time in the exhaust of that process leads to acceptance. Acceptance is where you want to be as far as improving and being at a level where you can function in your normal environment. For those who have lost a family member in the first year, or let's say it's been at least a year or less than a year, in my professional opinion, the first year of someone no longer being here in your life to me is the most difficult. Okay. And also, I would say that the intensity of your possible depression and sadness, lack of functionality increases, particularly in the latter months of a year or the early part of the following year, because you're learning to live with the fact that this person can no longer be there for your birthday, can no longer be there for you for other family events and traditions. This is the first year that you will not spend Thanksgiving with this person. You will not spend Christmas. You will not spend New Year's Eve with this person. You will not celebrate all the celebrating events. You have to now learn how to celebrate those events absent of that person who is dear to you. Okay. Now, in many events, when someone comes to me because of the loss of a loved one of the first things they talk about is the difficulty of that person not giving them the routine phone calls that they usually would get in the morning or afternoon or weekly phone call, not taking them to church, not doing the basic activities that you would routinely, engage in on a day-to-day basis. You have to learn to live your life absent of those events. Now, in many situations, the holidays is seen as a period of time where you are exclusively spending time with family. Therefore, you have a higher awareness of the fact that this person is not here. And you began to reflect on previous years. You began to reflect on the last time you spent Christmas or the last time that you spent the 4th of July or Thanksgiving with this person. And you start reflecting on your childhood. You start reflecting on your adulthood when you had special times with this person. You began to think about the presence of this person. You began to think about the words that they would say. You would think about the things that they would do to show love to you. And you can't replace that feeling. However, when you are processing effectively and grieving effectively, it is important that you do reminisce and reflect on those times, but in the event to bring comfort to the fact that you are remembering the positive things, and it can bring comfort to the fact that you understand the love and the feeling, the relationship that you all had. This is not a time to think about the negatives and the fact that they're not here. You're actually, throughout your thoughts and your cognitive processing, you are basically revisiting the reason why you love that person in the first place and why you hold them dear to your heart. And in the journey of acceptance, which is the last stage of the Kubler-Ross stages, you learn to function without necessarily allowing a mental block that can hinder your ability to function and do day-to-day activities as far as managing your home, interacting with friends, work, issues with your children, parenting your children, being there for your spouse. Okay. I I would in many situations um give in many ways some tips and strategies to getting through this tough time in the holidays. Number one, I would encourage people to not overextend yourself and stress yourself out in an attempt to do a bunch of activities to deter away from thinking about your loved one that is no longer here. I will encourage you to do productive activities, just enough to be productive, but not overextending yourself and stressing yourself out and trying to not think about it. Because what eventually happens is you're wearing yourself down to the point that initially you're going to no longer function, and then you're going to probably repeat thinking about things anyway, but you're mentally not going to be able to handle that situation. Number two, I will encourage you, if you are seeking therapy, to continue to seek to be consistent with therapy during this period of time. There's a lot of people who during this time, and I'm experiencing this right now, that during the holidays, people either stop therapy or they take a break from therapy. Okay. Now, I do understand during this time, it's a very busy time of the year, and it may be difficult for you to have a continuation of that. But I would never, in any sense, recommend you stopping therapy for a month or two due to the holidays. I do think that if you had some level of maintenance, at least once or twice a month, that would be appropriate to allow yourself to have that therapeutic process to in many ways learn ways to cope, because in this period of time the important thing is learning cope positive and healthy coping mechanisms to get through the holidays. Thirdly, as I'm kind of going through this list, just kind of thinking of things, it is important that you talk, when you're not in therapy, you talk to those close to you that you trust and that you love and that you have a great um, chemistry with, about your father, about your mother, about the loved one that you lost, your spouse, anyone, brother, sister. Have conversations, healthy conversations. And I'm going to say those conversations don't need to be extensive. Call that person that you like to talk to, friend, best friend, or whatever, and you can have a brief 10 to 15-minute phone call, just venting or expressing how you feel about your loved one that is no longer here. Allow them to respond back to what you're saying. Thank them for the fact that they're there to listen to you. It doesn't have to be a situation where you're talking for 2 to 3 hours. It can be a brief, short situation in which you're just speaking just to talk about how great that person was to you. Also, I want people to be aware of how they're sleeping and also be aware of how you're eating, because during this period of time, there can be disruptions in your sleeping. You're either oversleeping or not getting enough rest at all. Same thing with eating. You may have a tendency to overeat and emotionally eat because of the situation, or you may choose not to want to eat or have the need to eat. So I just want you to be aware of those things. Also, be aware of your daily routines, whether or not those daily routines are being disruptive. Are you not engaging in certain activities that you usually would do during this time? Or you find yourself overly doing a bunch of things and trying to squeeze them all in at one time. So we want to, in some ways, kind of think back and reflect on how I've been functioning during the holiday season. And lastly, um, in many situations, I in many situations encourage people to engage in pleasurable activities, such as listening to music that reminds you of that person, or just listening to music that you like, engaging in activities that you enjoy doing. I also encourage journal writing. Okay. Journal writing of your feelings if you feel that you cannot express how you feel verbally. Now, there are tons of other different things that I recommend. I'm just pointing out some of the more successful things that I pretty much are reinforcing therapy sessions. So again, guys, I thank you all for being here. This is Coach D. Durrell Spears. Um, I hope that you enjoyed the video today, and it's basically on grieving during the holiday season. If you have any questions, you can reach me at amburn1718 at gmail.com. You can see it on my page that relates to this mental health related issue. Have a great day.